Good day, my name is Seshni Chetty and I am a BEE legal advisor at the SEESA Durban office.
Good day, my name is Saigal Inderpal and I'm also a BEE legal advisor at the SEESA Durban office.
Today we will be discussing the construction sector codes, in particular the BEP subsector. Saigal, can you perhaps enlighten us as to what activities actually fall under the construction sector codes?
Sure, no problem, Seshni. So let's get started. The construction sector is made up of two subsectors. So we have contractors on one hand. These consist of general building and maintenance activities, as well as hardware stores and specialized engineers. On the other hand, we have our built environmental professionals, also known as BEPs for short. These are the entities that perform activities such as planning, designing, and consulting, for example. A perfect example of a BEP entity would be an architectural firm or a consulting engineer. However, both contractors as well as BEPs fall into the construction sector codes.
Okay, perfect. And in terms of your thresholds, do they differ between your contractors and your BEPs?
Even though they both form part of the construction sector codes, these subsectors do differ, definitely. So let's start with the BEP sector, for example. An entity that has a turnover of between 0 to 6 million will be classified as an EME, exempt micro enterprise. A BEP entity with a turnover of between 6 to 25 million will be classified as a qualifying small enterprise, QSE. And a BEP entity with a turnover of more than 25 million will be classified as a generic entity. However, with the contracting entities, the threshold is as follows. An EME has a turnover of between 0 to 10 million. A QSE has a turnover of between 10 to 50 million. And a generic entity has a turnover of over 50 million rand per a financial period.
Okay, now I know in terms of the generic scorecard, Saigal, it is a full rating and there are some differences. I'd like to just touch on the ownership element. Are there major differences between the contractors and the BEP requirements?
In terms of ownership specifically, yes, there is. So for example, in order for a contracting entity to claim black ownership, the black shareholders have to be black South African citizens before 27 April 1994, and that's about it. However, when you look at BEP black ownership, there are further requirements. At least 50% of the black shareholding should be registered with a professional body that is registered with a statutory council. And these shareholders also have to form part of executive management of the entity as well.
Okay, and then if these requirements are not met, what are the consequences in terms of the ownership element?
Okay, these consequences, it will have a negative impact on the entity. So, for example, if a shareholder does not meet these requirements, only 50% of their shareholding will be recognized.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear on this point, Saigal. If, for example, I am a black shareholder and I own 50% in a company, but I don't meet these additional BEP requirements, does that mean that we can only recognize 25% of my shareholding?
Yes, that is correct. That will be the negative impact of this effect.
Okay, that's quite unfortunate. And then in terms of the actual documentation to prove these additional requirements, like the registration with the professional body as well as the executive management, what documents are needed?
Okay, in terms of the professional registration, there are statutory councils that belong to the construction sector, so it will have to be one of those applicable bodies. Thereafter, you will have a certificate with your registration details, which confirms your registration with the entity. And in order to confirm executive management or top management, your normal management rating would apply. They look at your activities within the business as well as your monthly payroll, and things like that will be taken into account.
Okay. And then what about the other elements on the scorecard, like your management, skills development and stuff? Are there any other differences between like your BEPs and contractors in terms of requirements?
There are no major differences unlike the ownership. However, the targets and points do differ for the elements such as ownership, the skills, management and control, procurement, and supplier development. It's only socioeconomic development that does not differ between the two.
Okay, so it's only your points and your targets. It's nothing major.
Yes, ownership is the only major difference.